Watch this.
The last time Idaho tried to execute a death row inmate, it didn't go as planned. But it may also mark the last time the state tries to use lethal drugs to do the job. We have a couple of legal updates to Idaho's preferred method for capital punishment. Public safety is always a concern in a growing community. More people usually means a need for more police officers. Well, Starr's police department is expanding, but this new officer walks the beat a bit differently. Our country's recent approach against immigration is certainly nothing new, but back when it was something new, it may have had a hand in one of our country's deadliest attacks on non-citizens. A look back at the Hells Canyon Massacre. The state of Idaho may never do a lethal injection ever again. If you remember when it was tried on convicted serial killer Thomas Creech last year, you can probably understand why. While that failed attempt can be blamed on the lack of a viable vein to inject the drugs, issues with who supplies those lethal drugs have also pushed many states, including Idaho, to find other means to complete capital punishment convictions. To say nothing of the legal appeals that go along with death penalty cases or a second attempt at it, all of that may not matter, as two separate developments are pushing all Idaho executions to 2026, which is about the time the Gem State will be kind of a full-time first option firing squad state anyway. So, Joe, why won't Idaho try for a lethal injection before, well, I guess that'd be next summer?
Yeah, so a little more than a year from now, July 2026. So there's two reasons, a court case and then construction plan. Let me explain here, Brian. So back in April, a federal judge granted a request for some state of Idaho, some media outlets here, for a preliminary injunction, and that would require the Department of Correction, IDOC, to allow audio and visual access for witnesses to the medical team room during executions. Previously, witnesses could only see and hear what happened in the execution preparation room and the execution chamber. So Idaho, to this court order, they could have said, okay, and pursued lethal injections. But late Friday, paperwork was filed to inform the court that Idaho is appealing that decision. This is a First Amendment question. So a hold up there, but it's one that now looks like it won't even matter. On Friday, the Idaho Department of Correction published a construction update about their F block. So that is the spot at the Maximum Security Institute where executions are done. And IDOC says to ensure compliance with the recently signed into law House Bill 37 that designates execution as the firing squad, they are going to have that in place by July 1st, 2026. So F block is being taken completely offline for construction. As a result, they say all executions and execution-related procedures will be unavailable, including execution by lethal injection. The current estimate for construction is 6 to 9 months. And from there, IDOC says that the execution team, they'll need time to do training to do these executions by firing squad, again, beginning July 2026. What will those look like? Well, lawmakers explained the process as legislation made its way into being an Idaho law.
There would likely be somebody who received a death order, death warrant, would be likely strapped to a chair. And in this case, I know with the firing squad, there is methods that you can actually do it electronically. There's electronic triggering method.
He plans to do a mechanized version of the firing squad, so there won't be a lineup of people holding rifles.
And it is ultimately up to IDOC to create that full process. And I reached out to IDOC today for details on the construction, what the layout of this renovation will look like, and if there is a firm process at this point of how a firing squad execution will go. We also asked about supply of lethal injection drugs, if Idaho still has them, and how much do they have left. And you're looking at records from exactly a year ago that showed the recent purchase for pentobarbital. We can assume this means this will likely be wasted, which means tens of thousands of dollars worth of this drug that was bought by taxpayers, it was never used and will go to waste. So, Brian, we know that there are 8 people on Idaho's death row. We mentioned Mr. Creech in that situation. However, there's a whole list of, I guess, Idahoans that are on that list, Chad Daybell being the latest. We know the Brian Kohberger case is seeking the death penalty. So what that looks like for the future of Idaho could be interesting. Again, though, we're hoping to hear back from IDOC about the layout of this firing squad and exactly what the process will look like.
Yeah, so just adding more to that, what is already is a lengthy process when it comes to death penalty cases in Idaho. All right, thank you very much, Joe. Well, the city of Star might be your typical Treasure Valley city, explosive growth, more services in demand. There's nothing typical about the city's newest police officer. A K-9 officer is something Star has wanted for a while, so I guess it's like if you build it, they or she will come. Star is now the first of 3 Ada County Sheriff's Office contract cities to have its own K-9 officer. Aspen Shumpert spent a few hours with the department to see how this rookie officer is already making a difference.
The city of Star grown about 16% a year in the past 3 years.
And with the police department growing with it, there's a new officer on patrol.
That's it.
She's got 4 legs, a wagging tail, and a nose that can detect what humans cannot.
Drugs bring a lot of different problems, to include, burglaries, robberies, all those type of things to pay for those drugs. And the more drugs we get off the street, the better off we're going to be.
Luna is the Star Police Department's very first K-9 officer. Star Police Chief Zachary Hessing says the 2-year-old Silver Lab is the next evolution in public safety for this community and getting drugs off the street.
Just the mindset of people who are wanting to deliver drugs or have drugs with them, if they know you have a K-9, it's more of a apprehension to go into that city or to do that type of work.
But for Officer Sam Goldstein, Luna's handler, this partnership fulfills a lifelong dream.
The opportunity to work with a dog is, I think, the best job in the world.
After meeting 8 dogs, he found Luna in Washington State. The bond between him and Luna ran deep from the start.
In those short amount of time, had built a better bond with her, and that's why I chose her.
Unlike other K-9 officers who are used for apprehension or chasing people down, Luna is a single purpose, trained only for narcotics detection.
We as humans can't smell these odors. We don't smell these things that are hidden in cars, but it's a lawful way for us to be able to help protect the citizens that don't want to have drug dealers or people selling drugs in their town.
Since November, Officer Goldstein and Luna have logged nearly 200 hours of training.
Introducing her to the odors of the narcotics that we're going to train her on. So that starts with towel throws and playing with the towel in a game, and it builds up to slowly introducing her to searching and different search patterns. Search! You can kind of see how she started working, and she pretty much took us straight to it because she knows that she gets her toy. It's exciting and fun for her.
Yes, schoolgirl!
It's almost like when you have that best friend you grow up with forever and they give you that look and you're like, oh, okay, I know what's going on. It's the same thing. I'm reading what her body naturally does when she's hunting. We've used her, what she's been bred for, and we've just moved it in a direction that helps us do our job.
Since March, Luna has helped remove drugs like marijuana and methamphetamine from the streets of Star during traffic stops.
If the car is stopped and they believe something's going on, we'll come and we'll do a free air sniff around the car. So we'll go around the car. If she has a change of behavior, meaning closed mouth sniffing, bracketing, alerts to me that I know she's in narcotics odor based on the copious amounts of hours of training, and she gives a final response, then that gives us probable cause to search that vehicle.
But beyond drug detection, Luna serves as a bridge between police and the community.
We feel comfortable with kids come up and talking, petting her while they're talking to Deputy Goldstein.
Officer Goldstein recalls an eagle child wandering away from Grandma. Him and Luna happened to be in the area and stepped in to help.
So I offered to bring Luna to come help, and as soon as the deputy asked her if she wanted to meet the police dog, she grabbed his hand and walked over to our car and got to hang out with Luna.
For Officer Goldstein, this job represents more than just law enforcement.
It's fun to know that I'm making a positive impact on the community. I get to live out my lifelong dream of being a canine handler, and I get to go to work with my best friend.
Chief Hessing says Luna's success may lead to expanding their K-9 unit. For now, they are celebrating Luna's wins and eager to see what she's able to do in the years to come.
Not only going to work with his best friend, but also bringing her home, right? Because his dog will stay in his house.
Yep, that's right. Goes home with him. Yep. He said, when we're home, we're off duty. But when we're on duty, it's business, and she knows that. And it's a little bit of a game for her. She wants to get her toy.
Oh, that's okay. That's how it works. Does he have kids? I mean, do they all get attached to the dog?
Yeah,
he
does have, I believe, 2 kids.
Okay.
So definitely a family pet when Luna is at home with them, for sure.
Yeah, maybe the flipping of the switch, though, when that job calls. Yeah. Exactly. All right, thank you very much, Aspen. Well, Lori Vallow Daybell will be back in court next week for her third murder or murder adjacent trial. Plus, a few more familiar names from the Gem State will be getting some federal appointment attention. And yes, summer is officially, or unofficially, I should say, underway. But officially, places to cool off will open as soon as tomorrow. Here's Hunter Funk with the 411.
Jury selection is expected to get underway this week for the third trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. Now, Lori's already convicted and serving a life sentence in Idaho for the murders of her 2 kids and her husband's late wife. Lori's now on trial for conspiracy to commit murder in an attempt on her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. This upcoming trial is in Arizona, where she was found guilty last month for conspiring to commit murder in the death of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. He was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, in Arizona in July 2019. This second trial is expected to get underway in June. Today, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced its new slate of presidential appointments. For Idaho, Kevin Andrus has been selected as State Executive Director for the Idaho Farm Service Agency. Andrus has served in the Idaho House of Representatives. Now, he has an agricultural production background and chaired the House Ag Committee. Rick Youngblood has been appointed as State Director for Idaho Rural Development. Youngblood has served 5 terms as an Idaho State Representative. Looking for a job? Well, look no further. Boise VA's Disabled American Veterans Volunteer Transportation Program needs drivers, especially in the Twin Falls area. The program provides the vehicles, they just need the drivers. Anyone interested in volunteering is asked to reach out to the Boise VA office. And with that great weather on the horizon, you may think, it's time to hop in the pool. And the city of Boise is ready for you. Boise's outdoor pools are opening tomorrow for the summer season. That includes the Bora Pool, the Fairmont Pool, Ivy Wild, and the Natatorium. For hours of operation and entry fees, be sure to check out the City of Boise's website. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Hunter Funk.
Idaho grows more potatoes than any other state in the country. You may have known that. If you lived here long enough, you know potatoes aren't just a crop, though. They're also a legacy. Entire families have built their lives around them. Generations planting, storing, shipping russets all around the world. But this year, fewer Idaho farmers are putting potatoes in the ground. And Hunter Funk, well, I guess you're here to tell us why that is.
Yeah, experts are forecasting that it's going to be the smallest amount of acreage planted since 1952. Now, it comes down to supply and demand. Domestic demand is down as fewer people are ordering fries or dinner or just going out to eat because of inflation. That is the biggest impact, as 70% of Idaho's famous spuds stay in America. But the other 30% of Idaho's potato crop usually heads overseas, and that's where growers say they've been stuck for years, caught in a tangle of tariffs and trade disputes that make it harder to compete on a global scale.
Tariffs have been in place on potato products for many years. Like for instance, India, second largest population in the world, has a 30% tariff on potato products. Asian countries, Vietnam, Taiwan, Thailand, they all have had tariffs on our products for a very long time. And so some of the retaliatory tariffs that the administration has put in place, hopefully will get them to reverse that to where we can increase our exports.
Okay, so the big question, what do farmers do when they hear that the processors don't want a lot of their crops? Well, coming up at 6, we're going to break down and also look at how some growers couldn't even land a contract with some potato producers.
So like a combination of tariffs
Yes.
and this whole Make America Healthy Again kind of campaign, right?
Maybe less people want potatoes.
Right, get rid of the potato, or at least the French fried version, out of their diet.
It won't be leaving my diet.
Mine either. All right, thanks, Hunter. We'll stay tuned for that. It was the most cold-blooded, cowardly treachery I've ever heard tell of on this coast. And I'm a California 49er. That's a quote from the Justice of the Peace of Nez Perce County, back when Idaho was still a territory. J.K. Vincent had been hired to investigate a mass murder, a massacre of Chinese miners along the Snake River. He described how more than 36 Chinese men were shot, cut up, and then thrown into the river. Imagine 31 to 34 people being killed, estimates are still ranging in that area, with nobody held accountable for it, despite confessions and depositions. That's exactly what happened on this day 138 years ago. It's not the most uplifting story we could share during Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, I know, but the Hell's Canyon Massacre remains one of the deadliest and bloodiest attacks and anti-Chinese violence in the history of our country. At first, they were welcomed. A mid-century labor shortage to build the Transcontinental Railroad and mine for gold meant Chinese immigrants easily found a place in the American West. They worked harder for less, and they didn't want to unionize. That's why the script flipped, and Chinese workers were to blame for white men without jobs. That reversal in sentiments led to America's first significant restriction on immigration with the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, stopping immigration from China for 10 years. States like California and Oregon even banned them from owning land or mining, which is why, by 1887, Chinese miners already in the West went looking for low-profile places to find gold. A group of them working for the Sam Yep Company found one, south of Lewiston, along the Oregon side of the Snake River, in what would become known as Hell's Canyon.
So the Chinese had been mining there at this site called Deep Creek for, probably about 4 or 5 months. And there were a band of white horse thieves operating in northeastern Oregon in what is now Wallowa County.
That band of 7 horse thieves allegedly found the Chinese miners and ambushed them on May 27, 1887. Over 2 days, every member of the Chinese mining party was shot by a rifle, mutilated, and dumped into the river. Within weeks, those bodies were being seen daily downriver in Lewiston. Nobody knew the number at the time, but rumors pinned the atrocities on Native Americans, who apparently made off with more than $3,000 in gold dust. Or it was other Chinese, or whites. The American miner kicks hard at the Chinese miner was an understatement. An investigation found it to be true, however. It was a crime committed by white men and confirmed nearly a year later when one of those horse thieves confessed. Frank Vaughn agreed to testify against the other 6 men, Bruce Evans, Hiram Maynard, Ezekiel Hughes, J.T. Canfield, Max Homer LaRue, and 15-year-old Robert McMillan. 3 of them managed to escape, and the 3 remaining were found not guilty by a jury in nearby Enterprise, Oregon.
Well, why did they have to kill them? Because they could easily have just taken the gold from the Chinese and let them go. And who would the Chinese have complained to? Who cared? No one. But the fact that they killed him, it was just clearly a savage act of racial hatred.
Said a local rancher who watched the 2-day trial, "I guess if they had killed 31 white men, something would have been done about it." But none of the jury knew the Chinamen or cared much about it. So they turned the men loose. Of course, the testimony of Frank Vaughn changed during the trial as he tried to blame the killings on the 3 men who had gotten away. He also claimed they were only trying to borrow a boat to bring stolen horses to Idaho to sell. And that quote by rancher George Craig about the acquittal being about race was written in a journal shortly after the trial and included in a book by Greg Notes, who you just heard from. He wrote Massacred for Gold, the Chinese in Hell's Canyon back in 2009. After the trial, the crime and the killing of 34 Chinese miners went all but forgotten for more than a century. Then in 1995, a Wallowa County clerk found a packet of missing court documents all about that trial hidden in an old safe at the courthouse. They detailed those documents, the indictments, the depositions, and the escape of the gang's leader from jail. Because of Noak's work, by the way, the Hell's Canyon site has been designated as Chinese Massacre Cove. So if you're in that area, you can find it. And a memorial has been placed there, and you can see it there. It has been written in 3 different languages.
Well, we are enjoying a stunner of a spring day. We're around 80 degrees across the Snake Plain from Boise out into Twin Falls in those low to mid 70s in the mountains. Winds are light and sunshine is plentiful, and that will remain the trend through your Tuesday evening. We'll hover in those low 80s until about 8 o'clock tonight, slowly sliding into the 70s after our 9:15 sunset this evening. And then tomorrow, the heat is on. Mother Nature cranks the thermostat. We're looking at our first 90-degree day of the year. I think Boise lands right around 92 degrees, blazing sunshine overhead. All those summertime reminders come into play this week with this spring heat wave. Slather on the sunscreen, load up on the water. Never, ever, ever leave kids or pets in those hot cars this week. Good reminder for the coming days. Tomorrow morning will be pleasant. We'll be in those low to mid 50s early in the morning tomorrow from Boise out into the Magic Valley. 30s and 40s up in the mountains, but again, a scorching afternoon. We will see 90+ degree readings across the entire Treasure Valley for the first time since last September. Upper 80s on deck in the Magic Valley. We'll even hit the low 80s in Haley. 7-day outlook shows we will stay hot on Thursday, a little less hot Friday, scorching Saturday, mid 90s as we kick off the final weekend of May.
All right, it is Tuesday, Memorial Day week. Let's check into some of your comments you sent in today, like this one here from Deb. Can you imagine how much money the state of Idaho could save if we would remove the death penalty as an option in sentencing? Life sentences should suffice. Money for new buildings, money for appeals, money for attorneys. So much money we could save. Yep, it is millions and millions of dollars that are spent to bring a death penalty conviction to, well, finality. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and that is the case, according to Deb, and it is true. There's a lot of money that could be saved. Let's go to the next one here, Sierra, if we can. There we go. Smaller potato crop. What crop is replacing potatoes? Rick wants to know. So with that one, we know with Blanksmith's farm, they're going to go with more edible bean crops. But somebody pointed out as well that, you know, maybe because of USAID, some of those orders have shrunk. We're seeing a fewer of those crops going out of the area, so they're going to have to replace them. Could be different for anybody. Let's go to the last one here. This one has to do with pools, I'm guessing, right? Yep. Pools are opening tomorrow. Better remind everyone that deregulated them. That's not until July 1st when the Central District Health or all the health districts are going to stop inspecting pools. So be prepared for that.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.